News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Lisa Mateo.
Lisa, we begin with a developing story in India. An Air India plane that was headed for London's Gatwick Airport has crashed shortly after takeoff from Western India. Bloomberg's John Tucker joins us with the very latest, John.
And Nathan, I'm just looking at the footage from the scene of the crash. Shows very little that's even recognizable. No indication that anybody survived this. This is an Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner aircraft. It's flight AI 171 traveling from Ahmedabad in India to London's Gatwick. The video footage shows the aircraft with its landing gear still extended shortly after takeoff, and then it slowly descended before exploding into a huge fireball upon impact in a nearby residential area. It looks like it hit a residential building. This is the twin-engine jet. It reached an altitude of 625 feet. It was going about 174 knots. This according to the data that we get from Flight Trader 24. The flight, as you mentioned, was carrying 242 passengers and crew. This stands to be the most serious accident involving Boeing's most advanced wide-body airliner. Air India, it's worth mentioning, is in the middle of a strategic turnaround. They're trying to tap into growing demand from a rising Indian middle class. Now, Tata Group owns the carrier. They say in a statement that Air India Flight 171, operating from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick, was involved in an incident. This accident does extend a series of serious and fatal incidents in the civil aviation industry this year. The crash also comes at a time of heightened tension between India and Pakistan. Now, I should point out there's no indication at all that figures into this. We don't know the cause just yet. Boeing shares pre-market right now 8% lower. I'm John Tucker, Bloomberg Radio.
Okay, John, thanks. As we continue to monitor that situation, we're also following the immigration protests in Los Angeles that are now spreading nationwide. The downtown LA area has been under curfew for a second night. Local leaders are trying to stop vandalism and looting. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna is urging demonstrators to remain peaceful.
There's a big distinction between individuals that protest and demonstrate to violent, destructive, basically anarchists. I mean, just creating that chaos.
And as police try to keep the peace, the federal government's expanding its show of force. The National Guard is now assisting U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement with immigration arrests. And Attorney General Pam Bondi says the Trump administration is invoking the Hobbs Act so federal prosecutors can take over some local criminal cases.
We're going to do everything within our legal authority to protect our law enforcement officers and all the people in California right now.
And the Justice Department's also asking a federal judge not to interfere with the deployment of Marines and National Guard in Los Angeles. A hearing on that is set for this afternoon. All this as protests spread to other cities, including New York, Chicago, Milwaukee. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said he'll send the National Guard to respond to protests that are planned there this weekend. And there was a curfew in Spokane, Washington last night in response to protests in that city.
Well, we now turn to the latest on the trade front, Nathan. President Trump says he's planning to send letters to trading partners within the next 2 weeks to set unilateral tariff rates. Now, that move comes ahead of a July 9th deadline to reimpose higher duties on dozens of economies once the current 90-day pause expires. President Trump spoke to reporters yesterday.
We're rocking in terms of deals. Now, at a certain point, we're just going to send letters out. And I think you understand that, saying this is the deal. You can take it or you can leave it. You don't have to use it. You don't have to shop in the United States, as I say.
So far, the White House has only reached a yet-to-be-implemented trade framework with the UK and a tariff truce with China.
And Lisa, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the European Union is likely to be among the last deals that the U.S. completes. He tells CNBC deals with other countries will start, in his words, next week and the week after and the week after.
In Washington, Nathan, debate continues over President Trump's big tax and spending cut bill. A top Republican negotiator says senators are considering a $30,000 cap on the state and local tax deduction. That would be down from the $40,000 in the House-passed bill. Republican Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan says she hopes the Senate doesn't change the SALT too much.
The SALT caucus, which we have here in the House and they don't have in the Senate for obvious reasons, they've been pretty dug in, and I'm not here to say they're right, I'm not here to say they're wrong, but they've been pretty dug in, and that was one of our biggest issues in the House. That just can't be touched.
Michigan Republican Lisa McClain spoke on Bloomberg Television. Senate Republicans also plan to scale back some cuts to federal food aid in the House bill. The Senate's version would sell millions of acres of federal land to help pay for the measure. The move is expected to raise up to $10 billion over 10 years.
Elsewhere in Washington, Lisa, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has named 8 new vaccine policy advisors to replace the panel he abruptly dismissed earlier this week. They include several vocal vaccine critics and one who identifies as a, quote, anti-vaxxer. Secretary Kennedy is making major changes to how immunizations are studied and administered in the U.S., paving the way for a more skeptical approach to the use of shots that prevent deadly infections. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
I'm Lisa Mateo, and this is Bloomberg.